The Friday the 13th franchise is one of the most iconic horror IPs in history, and yet it is also one of the most mishandled horror franchises at the same time. It is almost Halloween, and normally around this holiday, a lot of people go back and watch the movies of this classic franchise. The fans of it, and even just horror fans in general, have been waiting for this IP to return to the big screen, and yet for some reason, the powers that be have not deemed it possible for a return anytime soon. So with that being said, I'm here to ask the question today: how can the Friday the 13th franchise be revived and live again? In this video, I'm going to break down how I would personally do it, so sit back, relax, and I hope you enjoy the video. Let's start by talking about the history of Friday the 13th as a franchise. It is one of the biggest in history in this genre, with how many movies it has made, comics, video games, but then also the cultural impact that it has had on the world as far as giving us one of the most iconic horror characters ever, with the hockey mask slasher Jason Vorhees. When I was young, I remember every Halloween seeing someone dress up as that character because the look of it was just that terrifying, especially to kids. I even as a kid was one of the people who played the old school Roblox game back in the day, and one of the fun things on there was a Friday the 13th game where you were hunted by Jason. If anybody else here watching was like me back in the day with that kind of thing, that's a nostalgia kick for you. Back in the 80s, when it first started, it was one of the rarest things you ever saw in the film industry, where they pumped out a movie practically every single year during that decade, and then even after that decade was over, they went on to make the character go to space in the early 2000s, along with a crossover where he fought another iconic horror slasher in Freddy Krueger. The last film that we got was the 2009 remake style film, which sadly did not do as well as people hoped, and to this day, that was the last thing that we got on the big screen. This century has also seen a couple of video games get made, and the last one that we got was in 2017, and for a little bit, that was a very popular game with the video game community, but it didn't last long, unfortunately. Almost 8 years later, and nothing with the franchise has been done, to where now people are clamoring for more. A lot of this is due to the fact that recent rumors have suggested that the rights issues that the franchise has been having for a while now could get resolved and something new can get made. Unfortunately, even that seems to not be happening, as the people who control what's going on with that issue have said that they don't expect anything to come anytime soon. I am no law expert here, but I truly find it to be ridiculous that this brand can have the issues that it's having with who controls the rights all these years later, because someone felt like it was needed to put a lawsuit on it and let their ego take over. Things like this don't last that long unless someone is that desperate enough to think that the IP would be better off in their own hands. With all that going on, other rumors stipulated that a prequel series like television show was going to happen out of the franchise. The most recent reports show that a new showrunner was on board to helm this series that would be coming to the Peacock streaming service after the last showrunner was fired. This TV series has been talked about for several years now, but has not gotten off the ground yet, mainly due to the rights issues as well as creative differences with the filmmakers. Even if we put aside all the legal trouble that this franchise has been having, we should also actually talk about it from the standpoint of discussing what makes Friday the 13th great for some people. To me, in order to fully understand that, you have to look at the characters that horror franchises center themselves around. Take a lot of the other iconic horror series and slasher franchises as comparisons. You have the Halloween franchise with the character of Michael Myers, a character that some have deemed mythic and supernatural to the point where he has superhuman strength, doesn't feel pain when wounded, and also seemingly never dies. He also plays a big part with that iconic mask too. The look of that character is really, really cool. Someone we just mentioned earlier with Freddy Krueger is a very unique form of a slasher. His ability to make people horrified comes from the fact that he has the power to haunt people in their dreams, which is how he kills them. He also gets popular with the fact that, again, he has a great look and design. Chucky as a slasher is unique in his own way because he is a doll that was taken over by the spirit of a psychopath serial killer. It is a unique angle to how you create a new kind of slasher that made him terrifying back in the day. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which admittedly is only good for the first original movie, is based on a bunch of crazy cannibals who want to eat you, along with the iconic chainsaw-wielding Leatherface. That character is absolutely psychotic, and the original film did a a great job to establish his cultural impact. And then you have arguably, to a lot of people, the most iconic slasher, which is Ghostface. What makes that character unique is that while it is a real person, there is an angle to how Ghostface kills that makes it fun and exciting. Ghostface uses a voice modulator to hide their voice and mess with their victims. Each movie tried something new with making it where it was multiple different Ghostfaces, which added to how certain events would play out, confusing our main characters, making it more scary. And now, we come to Jason Vorhees. What is it that makes this specific slasher so unique and terrifying for people? It is a question that I've always found to be the hardest to answer because of who this character is. He, out of all the iconic slashers, might have lesser of a unique angle to him. The character based on the lore becomes who he is because of the story attachment to his mother and how he was treated by other people as a kid due to having a deformed nature on his face. It ties in with this place called Camp Crystal Lake, where he was thrown in by those people and drowned. He somehow survived it, and this lake, years later, is where people would go and stay together for summer camp. Anytime anyone returned, Jason would come back, haunt them, and then kill them. The design of the character is not as unique depending on which version you see him as. Everyone knows him more as the hockey mask version, which, in my personal opinion, is the better version. While some people did not like the 2009 remake, I think that that version, where he's all yoked up with his massive size, wearing that mask, holding his trademark machete, is when he was at his most terrifying. Having seen a lot of the older Friday the 13th movies, I was never actually that scared at the older version. With how they treated suspense and horror, it can kind of come off as being a little dated. In a way, I think he's most related to Michael Myers because of that reason. The imagery and sight of that kind of character is scary enough, although I would say Voorhees is much scarier because he runs versus Michael, who just walks. Also, having somewhat of an immortal nature to those two characters is also what makes them unique, especially with where their franchises kept taking their movies, where the character would die and then just get revived again. This now leads to us talking about what it is I would personally do to revive this franchise. Just to get it out of the way, I would definitely make another video game because I think that this franchise works really well with that media format, especially if you look at the last game that came out. But if we are strictly talking about doing either a TV series or a movie, I think it has to be all centered around the character of Jason Voorhees. The thing about the 2009 remake that throws me off with just how much they fumbled the bag is that the movie is insanely cliche by horror standards. It just feels like your typical horror movie where you follow a group of people who get drunk, party, get naked, have sex, and do all that stuff that detracts from the purpose of what it means to actually call it a horror film. Anytime Jason was on screen, it was the best part of the movie. You didn't really care for anything else in the story or the characters, given that they are all practically there for him to just kill in brutal ways. There's got to be a build-up to when that stuff actually happens. You've got to follow characters that you can care for so that by the time you get to the end of the film or television show, all the rules are thrown out the window, and Jason can just terrify and haunt our characters until he either kills them or he dies. You should also make sure that his background is definitely a focal point, but also create a story around our main characters that factors in with caring for them, but also their situation of dealing with Jason. Don't make the story too complicated either. Make it simple and linear. Whether a television show or a movie, it also has to be put in the hands of a skilled filmmaker who understands how to craft a movie that will make the audience scared. Lighting, sound design, production design, and all those aspects of filmmaking are vital as well. There is simply no great horror movie out there that's ever been made if those things are not at 100%. Keep it simplistic as well with those elements without using CGI or unnecessary filters that I see some horror movies use today. I think it's time that this franchise be given a good musical theme as well for its character, just like how Halloween is for Michael Myers and has one of the most iconic themes in history. It'll make people more inclined to want to go see the film, but also when they actually do see it, they'll come out of it having had a great experience. I think the idea of a TV show is much harder to do, and so I would personally prefer if they did do it in movie form. I think putting it on a streaming service like Peacock of all streaming services is probably the worst thing that you could do, and so I hope that they just completely scrap that idea. Like I said, all that other stuff I mentioned is just as important in order to make this franchise live once again. So there you have it, my commentary on how Friday the 13th can be revived. Leave your comments down below about what you think about my analysis of it. I really do want to see the hardcore fans especially in the comments below, and let's have a nice and respectful conversation about this. Thank you for stopping by my channel. If you want to see more moving forward from me with regards to film and television and you enjoyed this video, hit the like button and also subscribe if you are new here and turn on that notification bell. I'm trying to build a community on this channel and your support would be greatly appreciated. That's a wrap, folks. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of the day, and I will see you all soon for the next video.